Hopes of a breakthrough in the talks to end the 3-month-long strike in the platinum sector were fading today. Employers from Anglo Platinum, Impala Platinum and Lonmin were still locked in a make-or-break meeting with AMCU at an undisclosed location in Johannesburg this afternoon. SABC News understands that the mood inside the talks turned from optimism to pessimism after several failed attempts to break an impasse over wages. Labour Minister Mildred Oliphant convened these latest talks. Employers have tabled a new settlement package with hikes in benefits and allowances, which would increase the remuneration of striking workers to 12,500 rand over the next 5 years. But that's still a far cry from AMCU's demand for an entry-level basic wage of 12,500 rand in 4 years. The new offer means that workers will receive an increase of up to 10% each year for the next 5 years. Well, tomorrow the strike will enter its 13th week. It's cost workers and employers more than 20 billion rand in lost revenue and wages. Well, for the latest, I'm joined in studio by my colleague, SABC reporter Mbongeni Muthwa. Great to have you with us. Mbongeni, where do we stand right now?
Where we stand right now is the talks continue tomorrow. There's absolutely no agreement after 3 days of talks since last week, Thursday. Of course, today was the last day of the scheduled talks, and there was a big question mark, as you earlier alluded to, as to whether the talks would continue. What this means is Labour Minister Mildred Oliphant has instructed both parties to continue talking until they find one another. We've seen her do this with other deadlocked strikes, protracted strikes, recently last year in the motor industry, where she locked everyone in the room and said, you talk until you settle this. Whether that approach is going to work with this particular strike or not, it remains to be seen.
Well, it did sound like you were hearing that it was tough in the talks today.
It's been tough. It hasn't been easy at all. Since the strike began, you know, we've had talks happening under the mediation of the CCMA, and those talks have broken down on several occasions. They went back and whatever. And since Labour Minister Mildred Oliphant intervened and convened the talks on Thursday, first there was optimism because the employers tabled the new offer, and there were signals from AMCU over the weekend that they may be warming up to it. In fact, we understand that the employers going into yesterday's talks were expecting to walk in there, sign the agreement and pop the champagne, only to find that AMCU started raising questions about the calculations and how this package has been put together, and it's gone downhill since then. The
12,500 rand is so symbolic, and the employers are using it now as well. Of course, there are differences in the structure and how they will get to that 12.5, and whether it's a full package or a basic package. Do you think, like some commentators have said, that this is to really at least help AMCU save face?
I don't think so at all. The 12,500 rand is, like you say, is symbolic. It's a trademark AMCU demand since the wildcat strikes in 2012. They've used it to mobilize workers and actually to lure members away from their main rival, the NUM, which they broke away from by saying that they are the ones who have the best interests of mine workers generally in the country at heart, and they are prepared to fight for it. So it's symbolic in that sense, and as things stand right now, it's going to be very difficult, and it's the reason why it's been very difficult to end the strike, because members on the ground want that 12,500 rand, nothing less. At the same time, employers are saying it's simply unaffordable, and it's unlikely that you're going to get a situation where the platinum companies, or any mining company for that matter, will actually agree to hike mine workers' wages from the average of 4,500 rand a month, that's the basic pay, to 12,500. It's a conundrum.
Finally, Mbongeni, can we gauge what's really happening on the ground? Because Lonmin says that they are in touch with their workers through SMS, that a lot of the workers want to come back, but they can't guarantee their safety. We're hearing reports that some AMCU members are moving over to the NUM. On the other hand, workers are staying away, and we hear of desperation on the ground as well, desperation for a living wage.
It depends who you talk to. I think the only thing that we can be sure of is production at least in the 3 affected companies has ground to a virtual halt for 3 months. That's guaranteed. But in terms of the issues that you mentioned, if you talk to AMCU, all the 70,000 members who are on strike at the moment remain committed to strike until they get what they want. There have been reports, of course, during the strike of some members saying that they were misled by AMCU and so on. And AMCU leaders have been quick to say, no, those are not our members. Those people have been expelled. The NUM is saying it's inundated with phone calls from despondent strikers who want to return to the union. We've got no proof of that. Not just Lonmin, but all the 3 the platinum miners have been running radio ads urging people to accept what's on the table and come back to work and so on. They've been running a poll on their website and so on, and they say the overwhelming response from mining workers is they want to go back to work, but they fear for their lives or intimidation. Again, we have no proof of that.
Like you said, it depends exactly on who you talk to. Thank you so much. That was the SABC's Mbongeni Muthwa.